took me to play professional football. And when I got there, I realized that's not what I want to do. I decided, okay, go ahead and be a preacher. I decided to be a preacher in the United Methodist Church. Still looking for me, looking for that solution. That wasn't for me either. I needed a new birth. I needed freedom from the pain, the teachings, and what is troubling you that troubled me. I needed a solution. I kept searching. I stayed open. First it says, seek the kingdom of God, and all these things would be added unto you. That's how I happened to wind up being a preacher. Gave my life to Jesus Christ. Then they said, go ahead all the way. Go ahead and be a preacher. So I went on and started preaching. I still didn't have what I needed. I kept seeking. I didn't surrender to the Bible and to the teachings. I knew something was wrong with me, and I wanted to solve that. At 55, no, actually it was 52. At 52, I knew I was going to face a crisis if I did not find a solution. I knew I was in my midlife. If I saw what happens to me when they're not satisfied with what they accomplished. I didn't want to be a grouchy old man and blame everybody and just be ugly. And I didn't want to sit at McDonald's and talk trash with the ministers all day. I knew that's where I was headed if I kept it up. Seek the kingdom of God. I knew there was answers for me. So I kept seeking beyond the Bible. And I got it. And I got it.
All right. All right. We're going to keep things moving right along. I'm going to introduce y'all the panelists. This is my brother in everything. Okay, my brother from another mother. This is Minister Lavelle Hayes.
I want to say good morning, College Park.
Good morning. Okay.
And you have to know that you are in a great city because I stay supporting College Park and I'm not even a resident. I'm involved in everything that has anything from BIDA on down. I done been at the mayor's lunches. I done been everywhere. I mean, she's seen me around. And I just told her, I think I decided I'm gonna buy some property out here, make it make sense. Because to be honest with you, piggybacking off you, Mike, and Doc, this is the gateway to Georgia, not just Atlanta. Right. This is the front door to the world. That's my man right here. To the world. And I honestly, I appreciate this opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Of course, I am a CEO of Atlanta High Radio, and everything that goes on with you all, I post it, I upload it. Any way I can get a hold of it, I get the word out. I even talk to the young guys out here because I have a lot of young gentlemen out here. I've done so many events in College Park for me not to live out here, but I know too many people out here. So and with that being said, this is, like he said, mental health month, and that's a real thing, fellas. It is so serious because of the silent cries of the black men of this world. You can't be heard in a room behind a closed door. We have to learn to reach out and know that that gentleman to your left or your right has probably had the same problem, or if not, is going to face the problems that you have. And if you all are not communicating, then there is no solution. And I talk about this a lot on my own ministries. You know, I'm a part of Christ's Way Assemblies and the College of Bishops. And this needs to be addressed through churches, through neighborhoods. Even if you have to kick the doors down on these little hip hop fests, somebody need to speak about it, because you never know who heart you touch, who you stop from hurting themselves and others. Because hurt people hurt people. And we need to stop it right here. All these generations together can come up with one solution. You can't do it alone, but together we can make a mighty impact, not just on College Park, but on the world. Make them people duplicate us. Duplication is the key, and consistency wins everything at all times. I'm Minister Lavelle Hayes, and I'm here for you.
All right. You want to take it? You got it? Okay. Well, here, we're going to break this down into 3 different categories. Now, the categories are very general. Okay. You saw the flyer, good, but I'm pretty good to let you know. We're going to focus on 3 areas. The first one is, what does Black leadership look like? The second one is defining toxic masculinity. And then the last one will be, how do we overcome and destroy a lot of the negative stereotypes and the narratives that plague Black men? Okay? Those are the areas. Now, I have a list of questions, and as we get into this discussion, I know more is going to come out of the discussion. Let me get my tongue right. We're not going to get to all of it because we're not looking to fix this today all in one whop. What we want to do is facilitate this conversation. We will take a break because we do have food for y'all to get your nourishment together.
We're feeding y'all.
Okay, some vittles, and we're going to feed y'all. Okay. And then after we come back, we're going to come back and then we're going to hone in on solutions, because we don't want to just have, a moan and groan session or whatever and feel as though all we talk about is what's wrong. We want to find out what we can do to band together to say what we can do to make it right. Okay? So let's get started. And because the big thing about leadership is, you want to take that?
Yeah, I was going to say, we talk about this all the time. The question was, what does Black leadership look like? But what does Black male leadership look like? Mm-hmm. Because we have several examples, but everybody has it's subjective. It's really subjective. I could say, well, Meech, I think a Black leader, is very disciplined and gets up and he does this, he exercises and everything like that. And Meech says, I don't think that at all, because I ain't gonna get up and 5 o'clock in the morning to exercise. What that got to do with leadership? You know what I mean? So what his definition of it is, and what my definition of it is, doesn't negate each other. But I think we have to have a core of what it is. So like we said, I'm looking at everybody's face. We talking to y'all gonna talk back to us. It ain't gonna just be us talking to y'all, because the whole point was we're having a conversation. So, I have to say this. I got 2 men right here that have shaped me.
Okay.
I have my father here.
Okay.
And I have my Uncle Bruce here. And both of them have made history in this city.
Okay.
Right? Well, one in the state and one in the city. But I definitely want to hear what that generation has to say.
Exactly.
It's the boomer generation. And my father being from Jamaica, but most of the time spent here, running and starting and owning a business, as well as my uncle he's from South Georgia, Brunswick, to be exact, and having to go to school during the civil rights era. And all the things he had to go through, plus everything he's learned from there. I hope I'm doing you justice, Uncle Bruce. I don't want to talk to you. But I want to hear that generation, because I'm a Gen Xer.
Yeah.
And things change every 10 years of how we're looking at what leadership looks like, because leadership to these guys may not be leadership to me, or it is maybe to me, but then to me, other leadership to them may I don't see that as being a leader.
Right.
So I want to kind of hear from you all, or a crowd, anybody, if anybody want to say, what do they feel that Black male leadership looks like? Anybody. Y'all stand up, raise your hand. Meech's gonna come around.
I'm coming around. While
Don't
we
be
get
scared.
in here,
Don't be
let's
scared.
start with the panel who got the
on
microphones.
Yeah. Oh, you
Okay.
want to start with the? Okay. Go ahead.
I guess I'll introduce myself, Marcus Whitehead, a guest of The Lindsays,
Yeah.
the whole family. So to answer the question, I do agree with the core. I think there should be a core value, principle that from generation to generation, that should be, I guess, a standard, at least a minimum. For me, I would think it would be discipline. I agree with being disciplined. Also, the main thing that my dad taught me, may he rest in peace, was if you make a mistake as a man, you own up to it, whatever it is. I believe that's one core that should be like whether you said something and you come back like, okay, yeah, I see. I probably shouldn't have said I did that. Especially have a friend, and I'm using Mike, because we've had these conversations and arguments and fussing. And man, I will not, you know. So I say that to say that when you have when you make a mistake with somebody and you're as a man and you're telling another man, and then he said, man, why'd you do that? Oh, we butted heads. And then the next day I'm like, yeah, you know what, I don't know why I did that. I'm glad you told me that. I'm sorry. I think that's a core fact. I believe that's really, to be honest, that's the reason why we're so close now. I believe that should be one of the core, you know, at least.
That's good. You know what? He just said something. 2 words. I'm sorry. One thing that you are not able to see with black men is vulnerability. We're not able to be vulnerable because we're looked at as weak. And I'm using him as example. We will talk, and he will be like, I ain't. But when he comes back and he says, you know what, you was right. I apologize. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's showing that he's like, I have that capacity to know, okay, let me grow. I don't know everything. You know, those 2 words are very powerful because it's showing, you know what? You're right. I have to grow past this point. And how do you grow if you're not making mistakes?
Exactly.
If you know everything, you're not growing. So that's
Let me add to that, because one of the things that we have to get into, for me, the whole idea of leadership, because discipline is also accountability.
Exactly.
You know, now you said something very key here, that my father taught me this. What about those of us who didn't have the father in the home? Okay, because now my father was with me up until my first 8 years, but what he demonstrated as masculinity is what I ran from, because I did not like what it represented. Okay, and so after the age of 8, then it became female masculinity that I saw, because now I'm dealing with my mother as a single parent woman, you know, and so now the lessons that I've learned became female centered. Even though she had other men around to coach and this, that, and the other, the core became female centered, female masculinity. Okay, the strong woman and this, that, and the other, and so now, not necessarily mimicking her, it's just that understanding that the principles were general principles. But when I became a teenager and going through what men need for that rite of passage, I had to learn that on my own, you know. And then it come knocking on the head or whatever, because now I'm not the man or the kind of man that every other man in the neighborhood say I'm supposed to be. With my side, they wanted me to play football. I hated football. I still hate football. Okay, I detest football. But because I'm supposed to be that kind of man, you know, there was an issue. You know what I'm saying? So let's go to the panel. What you got over here? We'll turn it on.
All right, there he is. All right, just to reiterate off of accountability is very important in our communities. So, if you want to take it back biblically, not to just address the Bible at all times, but again, there was no accountability showed by men with Adam. I say the first Adam because Jesus was the second one. Okay, you know, Jesus replaced that original Adams in Genesis because of the mistake he made by sitting there entertaining the serpent just as well. So that's the real story, you know, not the little kitty story. But at the end of the day, also integrity is a core value that we need. And a lot of times, like he said, what about the fathers that was not there, the people that didn't have that male figure in their life? Well, sometimes you run into people in your life that are not of your family, because sometimes people that's not blood related make more of a powerful impact than family growing your life.
That's right.
And they'll guide you in the direction of positivity. Because I grew up in the era where the OGs would tell you, hey, something's going to go down, go in the house. You know, they didn't do this thing they got going on now. Hey, here, come here, run over there with that. They didn't do that to us. They sent you in the house. If you got smart, they crack you in your chest and send you going out. But this thing that's going on now, it has to stop with us, because if we live that, then we need to show that in order to be that. And I'm telling you, we have to stand up in these communities, because where we come from is better than where we're going right now, fellas. And I ask that all of us, you know what I'm saying, I do it all the time. I intervene. I step in the middle when I see young men, they disagreeing, and it's not worth it where they're going with it. And a lot of times when I get through explaining to them what the end result of their conversation would be, it's about nothing. At the end of the day, my thing is this: those mistakes you spoke about, you know, making mistakes as men and all that, I call those learning degrees. Because you can't graduate to somewhere if you haven't made a mistake in another place. You don't walk into college knowing everything. You have to fail to succeed. And that's what I say. That's what leadership looks like to me. I need to look back and see that you stumbled before you got here to feed me what you have learned. And that's my piece on that.
All right. You got something?
I do. I want to be helpful. I got something. I'm on purpose. However, at the same time, I don't want to impose. And if I impose, I will miss an opportunity with you. So, but I want to jump in. The good news is it's a solution. There is a solution. I found a solution, and I'm here to share the solution. I want to tell you the first step is I had to get the truth about me. I had to accept the truth about me. What I became by being reared in the slums. What I became by looking out in the world and seeing niggas like me.
That's powerful.
I had to see what I internalized. The other thing I learned the science to get clean. I learned the science to see what happened to me. I spent a lot of time in a laboratory to study what happened to me. I can't blame my parents. I can't blame the white man. I can't blame the culture. I can't even blame those books that I read. I can't even blame the Bible. How all of that impacted on me, which reduced me as a human being. I didn't know it. It had reduced me. It had shamed me. I didn't know it. I didn't know it caused me not to love myself enough. I didn't know. My mother didn't know. My mother's mother didn't know. And my father never knew. My grandfather never knew. This scientist told me, I'm going to teach you how to stop poverty, crime, and ethnic hatred. Poverty, crime, and ethnic hatred. He told me, that's what the scientists told me. Hey, man, if you want to learn how to stop poverty, crime, and ethnic hatred, you need to study. So I got a solution. He didn't tell me that I was the problem. He didn't tell me I was causing poverty, crime, and ethnic hate. He didn't tell me that. He told me that if you study this, if you learn this, you're going to be able to solve poverty, crime, and ethnic hatred.
All right.
Right, okay.
All right. Let me go here because, see, we're still dealing with black leadership. What does it look like? What does it look like? Come on.
First of all, I'm grateful to be here. Since 1972, I was in San Francisco Bay Area, and I just came back home 5 days ago. I'm so thankful, first of all, that you are having a conference or a workshop or an activity that addresses the black experience in the term that you're asking what we see in a black leader. To summarize this, beginning in 1967, after being among a handful of blacks that integrated Georgia Southwestern and being thrown in jail and the rest of the stuff, going through the 60s with the civil rights movement and looking at our leaders, and that question is asked. There is an organization that Mike, our nephew, is aware of, that we've had many of these workshops, and I would send him flyers at the plight of the black man, and we've had the San Francisco police chief that we interviewed in terms of what to expect from a black leader. I would say this, out of all the things you asked, I would use Stephen Biko. Stephen Biko said the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. And I think the brother over here had some intimate conversations about self-worth. The Million Man March I attended, I'm a consultant, the Norris Consultants. I spent with 14 men. We went to the Million Man March and came back, and you asked about black leadership and our families. Their issue of all these black men, their number one issue was issues with their dad. It was what is keeping us from being who we need to be? And the answer is us. The crabs in the basket. We were taught not to connect with each other. And so those things in my workshops, it can be unlearned. It's the internal racism. We're not concerned about the racism out here. It's the racism that we've interned on ourselves to where I can't call my nephew and say, hey, because we're even not at that level. We are, but black men, we're still looking to be in charge because we don't know how to. And so we have to start with what are the expectations? What are the expectations? For number one, I'm just going to be honest, I am totally disappointed. Hearing my nephew sent me this flyer way before I got here, and I was like gung-ho. And I sit here and I'm wondering, where are the black men? And I'm not being negative, but it's one of the things that may help. When we had activities like this, we made sure to, on Zoom, and we found out that men would participate on Zoom, and once we got them on Zoom, the next time they would come in. I there's so much to say. There's so much to do, but I think the process begins with that question, black leadership, because it's a cultural variable. Some people expect you to be real restrictive. I think a black leader should be open-minded to meet other black men where they are and not try to force the issue. But I'm going to step back because you'll have me all night talking about stuff. So I'm just going to say I'm elated to be here, and I'm looking forward to more of this. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, because
Appreciate
that there has got the ball rolling. Because here you said something that I want to key in on. That is a plague of black men, and that there is being hard versus being soft. You know, a lot of us are not here because, you know, this is sissified. You know, talking is sissified. You know, you know, I ain't got to be up in there telling about my business. You know, my business is my business.
Exactly.
You know, but let's go there. Let's go there, because see, as black men, when we talk about leadership, what does that mean for us? Okay, what is it supposed to look like? Are we supposed to be the alpha male all the time, hard, rugged? Because that's what I was taught. A man ain't supposed to cry. You're supposed to show emotion. This is why we don't go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Because we're supposed to be man enough to handle that. I done broke my leg and my arm, still trying to go to work, but yet, you know, I'm supposed to just suck it up. I'm not supposed to cry, and I'm hurting like hell. You know?
Brother Taylor. Brother Taylor.
So here we are. So what is the expectation? Okay, are we doing that for our women?
May I
Go ahead.
bump in here? Okay.
Say, this is a conversation.
You got him hot. Okay, look. No, but I'm gonna be honest with you. You need to ask yourself this as men. Is it more masculine for you to be here discussing these goals and starting within ourselves to build a foundation of healing? Or is it sissified not to be here?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I think that has to do with the part of the country you in. I'm coming from a place where, in California, where that's not an issue. It's really not an issue whether you get on your soft side or your hard side. The issue where I come from is how to be a man.
Exactly.
How to be a man.
I would say this.
Hey, can I adopt your uncle?
No, go ahead.
I want to adopt him.
No, you go ahead, man.
Okay, I'm
Go
gonna
ahead
adopt
now.
him. That's my uncle now.
Go ahead now. I was gonna say, just for stats wise, 56% of black people live in the South.
How about that?
56%. So coming from cities and everything, most of us live in the South because even after the Great Migration, people started to move back. So we know a lot of our issues are rooted down here. And racism is a whole different thing in California than it is here.
Say that.
And
Michael,
you know,
don't you think we got to stop gatekeeping and start keeping the gate?
yeah, I mean, and listen, I would say, if we look at, I was having a conversation, I had a conversation with, it was a white male having this conversation about white privilege, right? And it's going to relate back. He felt that white privilege did not exist. And I said, well, let me break it down to you in just simple terms, because I like stats and data, right? So I said, well, we have a country of 330 million people. Out of that 330 million people, 250 million of them are white. I believe it's 226 or 250 million are white, or say they're white. 42 million are black, or 50 million, as I gave y'all the number, of black. And let's just use black and white for right now. If I am in a place that the majority of the people look like me, then I'm going to be more comfortable around these people.
Right.
Then I'm going to feel like when they do something, well, it's not so bad. You know, I kind of know, I can see where he's coming from. You know, that alone is just a privilege of you having more people than me. So then you add on a country that is built on slavery and servitude. That the 50 million people, as you know, I'm in my other organization, I have my member here, American Descendants of Slavery. We talk about this all the time. This country is built on slavery, so those people that descend from that line, is most of the majority of 50 million, we're not even seen as human, much less a citizen. So if you add all that together, just you being a white, male, woman, citizen was a privilege.
Right.
So when did that number change? Number never changed. That number hasn't changed. So when did we have this roundtable conversation that said, you know what, racism isn't, we had Barack Obama and you got black leadership. Well, what that proves to me is that it's still a problem because there's one person I could point to and say, well, what about him? No. When you don't have a privilege, it's what about them?
Right.
Michael, racism was an escapade. Now it's a masquerade.
Oh, come on now.
People don't understand that.
Come on.
What you see every day when you walk into your places of business, that person that speaks to you, even though they are of the other's persuasion, what is their mind saying as they shake your hand?
Exactly.
What are they talking about on their lunch breaks? Because if you know, and everybody in here, I know you can understand this because you still see it today. And I'm one of them people, I just seem like I walk in a room and I catch everything that nobody else is speaking about. As soon as you walk in a room that's a public place for us to even break bread as a people,
Right.
it's still segregated.
Exactly.
Even the children, I have visited schools to speak, and you walk in the cafeteria, and even they have a mindset of segregation already.
Because it's taught.
And it's taught behavior.
And a lot of times it's two different reasons. Well, our segregation is more for safety. We sticking together because we feel safe. Oh, I see a black man sitting up. Let me go sit by him. I don't even know, but I just feel safe.
Right.
And it's because we, in this country especially, segregation is a byproduct of I'm gonna say capitalism. You have to have people at the bottom. So who do you keep at the bottom? You keep us at the bottom.
Right.
Everybody can come on and just step on top of us. You keep them at the bottom, but then you also tell them, listen, we'll give you some money, but you don't let nobody else come in here. You make sure you don't let them let these other Negroes come in here.
Let me add this. And fellas, I want y'all to talk to me now. We're talking about black male leadership. What about us when black male leadership from a dark-skinned man, especially when he has a beard and mustache, is still seen as aggressive? Whereas light-skinned, my color and lighter, is still seen as acceptable. It's still seen as, oh, he's safe. He's a safe black man. What about our dark brothers out there who's still trying to make a living?
Okay, but what about the doctor with the PhD that has dreads?
Saying, okay, come on now.
Yeah.
Add dreads. Add dreads to dark skin and facial hair. Okay, which corporate America says facial hair you got to shave it because corporate America don't like facial hair. You got to go clean face in corporate America now. Well, it's always been. But what about us culturally? We can't even express our culture. Exactly. They had to make a law, the Crown Law, so that we could be protected of our hairstyles or whatever.
And this was recent.
And this what, within the last 10 years? Yeah. Okay. So what are we talking about, fellas? Come on, talk to me.
Well, let me say this, because this is significant learning for me. I want to share this with. I'm the lightest of my brothers and sisters, the lightest, and of course the tallest also. And my sisters and brothers used to say, I'm gonna ask them, and they say, "Oh, who was your daddy?" Yeah, they used to say, "You got those Chinese eyes." So I grew up with that, and so anyway, I happen to be the only one that went off to college. I wound up being the only one with a degree. Anyway, there was a lot of firsts. My mother was going to college. Actually, she was going to high school when I was going to high school, and then she started going to college. But anyway, so she was the first. But this is what I learned, and this is what I'm trying to get over to you all about that. is in studying the science of human development in connection with the psychosocial effects of slavery. That's how I got the connection of the privilege that I had over all my other siblings because of my skin color. And yeah, so anyway, there was this sort of, I don't know what you call it in the same family, you know, I'm the lightest, who's your daddy, who's your mom, and all that kind of stuff. And so we had this skin color thing. My grandfather, he very dark skinned. And he was basically the only father figure in our house. And my grandfather gave me my first car. And so anyway, I know I have a profound affection because of my grandfather towards dark-skinned men. And Dr. Mulaney right over there, we're like that. I think I told him about my but anyway, my point is that we got a color thing with each other. And I'm conscious of it, and I'm aware of it constantly about skin color and how it is impacting me and my relationships. And I'm driven by skin color.
But that's real. That's real. You know what? I'm going to stay right there, though. Let's do that. Let's do that because there's also a difference here in America. Because for all of our brothers that's coming from other countries and other parts of the world, okay, Dr. Adadarin, you coming from the motherland,
right?
Okay, my brothers here, y'all coming from, the islands and carrying on, and understanding that masculinity and being a man is something completely different than over here in America. It's something completely different. So I've got to hear from y'all about what that means, because when we're talking about are we producing the men that we hate? We're hearing all of this that we say we don't like. We could point it out and say, no, we don't like it. But we are subscribing to it. Why? Because we sit there and pat you on the back, and say, okay, that just like we just left at the Chula. We ain't going to talk on that. Right. But we just did it right there. Prime example. Okay? Prime example of how we encourage that kind of behavior with one another. We don't check each other. When it's done, now we know you're just jostling right here. Right. But we don't put each other in check. When we are around the world, how are we as brothers still sitting up here subscribing to what I call PTSD, post-traumatic slave disorder, right? When we have a nation of young cats who feel it's all right to be a baby daddy to 36 kids with 16 baby mamas.
Exactly.
Slave disorder.
We better come through and talk. Until we emancipate ourselves from that mental slavery, we're going to live like that. I live a life, I'd never be scared of anything. Of course, the police, of course. But I never do anything to get involved in any kind of situation like that. So I live a life of, I'm not scared, and I don't care what color you are, because I love everybody, in a sense, until you really do something to me or whatever for me to, hate you, or for that matter. So when I look at a lot of people, the fact that they're lighter complexion or whatever, and they believe that they're better than, I don't look at that, because I grew up in a society where, of course, my mother was very light, of course, light like that lady, but I was a black one. But I started traveling at a young age. I'm a sailor, so I travel many countries.
I've met many people. And what it says to me, you know, it all depends on how you treat people. You know, me, I look at, you know, a lot of time people tell me, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. I'm not the kind of person who is scared of anything. And I don't mind making mistake. I just don't make them, you know, over and over, you know, because I think one learn from their mistake than their success many times. And I'm not the kind of person who's scared of falling. Like they say, when you fall, land on your back. If you can look up, you can get up. So I'm that kind of person. I remember 40 years ago when I started my business, everyone told me, man, you're going to leave this good job. You're in a corporate job. You're going to leave this job. Everybody love you here, Mr. Lindsay. You're going to leave this job to go and do what you're doing? I say, yes. I start with $138. In 8 years, I make $1.8 million. And
got that
of
now, we ain't
course,
got
you
that
know, I lost a lot of money over the years, you know, and I made a lot of mistake over the years. But I never turned back. And I teach my son the same thing. And so I think children live what they learn, you know.
And I want to add,
it's a lot to learn, you know, in a country like this.
I want to add on to what my father. And one thing my father always taught me, you know, my dad, he still is, my dad is super pro-black. So we'll go somewhere, he said, are they black? I said, yeah, Dad. All right. Go ahead and spend the money. He asked that because he knows what it takes, and he wants to support that. And he's always been like that. And then he'll be the first one, if something messed up, he'll be the first one to tell them, you need to, and they'll feel like he's attacking, but what he's telling them is, I went through this and I'm telling you, so you don't have to go through that same thing.
Yeah.
And they may take it the wrong way, but you know, me and him have talked over the years, but you know, he's gotten to the point now he's more calm about it. But I understand now, being older and being in his shoes, what he was trying to do back then. He was encouraging like people back, especially black men. He would pull black men aside. Listen, man, messing up. You got to do. What are you doing? And they take it wrong. And what he was doing, and he was being, like I told you before, he was being that man's keeper. He was saying, look here, brother, you got to fix this, because if you don't, you're gonna lose your business. You're gonna lose this. And when they didn't listen, what happened? And we're here 40 years later with our business and saying, we were trying to tell y'all, we had to weather the storm, but in order to weather the storm, you have to get better. You know, if you have a house and that shutter falling off, and that shutter is used to close that window, if you're going to fix that shutter, you ain't going to have no window. So that's you know, I'm just adding on to what you had to say.
But yeah, you know, that's, you know, I try to plant a seed. And in this city here, I'm in business a little over 40 years. And I've teach a lot of young black men how to go into business. A lot of them are in business today because of my intervention. I teach a lot of trades, you know, because I remember my father was an engineer, and I was a very bad guy when I was growing up. I fight everybody because it looked like I had something to prove. I was a fighter. In fact, one of the greatest fighter in the world was Trevor Burbick. He and I grew up together, and we used to be sparring partners. So I can fight. I used to fight, and you know, and I used to get a lot of I used to get a lot of whipping too, you know. But that's what it is, you know. But what waked me up is when I started traveling. I used to work for the Cunard Line out of Southampton, England, and that's when I first you know, feel what racism is all about, because growing up in the island, you know, it's there, but you don't really see, you know what I'm saying, until you start traveling. I was working for the Cunard Line, and I know the people are racist to us, and we Jamaican, we don't take on racism like the American does. We one time threw off all the ropes off the ship. They could not tie the ship up when they get to port. They have to use the rope from shore to throw on board to tie the ship up, and nobody know who does it. Another time we threw off all the dishes off the ship. Not all the dishes, of course, you know. But when we get to New York, they had us to. We have to go over to the Cunard, the QE2 to get more dishes to get on the ship. I was wondering, where are the dishes? We Jamaicans show off all the dishes off the ship. You know, so, you know, these are the things that we go through, you know what I mean? But
all right,
Okay.
I want to speak about that traveling. That instilled a lot of things in you that helped you help others. Because I didn't put my resume out there because I don't like to blow my own horn. I like to be the quiet guy. I don't really tell you the truth, but I was in the Navy myself. You know what I'm saying? I've traveled the world. I've done all that, and I've seen different forms of racism when you go places. I've been to the islands, and I think it was an awareness to what Doc was saying about color. When a gentleman walked up to me and he saw me looking at a specific lady. You know, I was a young guy then. You know, looking at the girls, and he noticed that I wasn't looking at the darker girls. He's like, every time one of the light girls come by, you grab her. So I wasn't paying attention to him. I didn't know this man was watching me like that, but you Yankee boy, look at you. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, and I'm looking around like, who is he talking to? But he had a conversation with me that made me aware that you're spoiled and you have a trained behavior that focus your eye on what is not where you're from.
Wow, that's
And I
deep.
said, wow. And then when he got to explaining to me about how the cultures that we seek subconsciously are more accepted where we come from than we are. And that's a terrible thing.
Wow.
And it goes back to starting with us within again. We have to flip that narrative. And it's for him to be a stranger, you know, and I'm glad that I was the type of young man that I was because I listened. And it started changing my focus on things. I said, wait a minute, I got to get my stuff together.
Right.
Because he made me realize that, you know, and I looked, and I said, wait a minute, that dark young lady that walked past here first was beautiful. You know what I'm saying? So I started inquiring and being inquisitive to my grandparents and talking to them about the subject, and they looking at me like, what's wrong with this boy? But come to find out, it started in the family. A great-grandfather of mine wouldn't allow my father and them to bring a dark woman to his candy store and his barbershop.
That was my grandfather.
But you bring a light-skinned girl, he hands you $20 and say, take her to the movie. And that shows you never know. That's before me.
Let me put a pin right there. I want to highlight something there because, again, we want to go generational. Because I had to accept this about my grandfather, same exact thing, because my grandfather, we call it color struck, okay? Y'all from the South, we call it color struck, right? He, being from Mississippi, had 12 kids, 10 boys and 2 girls that survived. There was supposed to have been 14, but my grandmother lost the twins. Coming from where he came from, light-skinned was a way to succeed. He did what he knew to do to prepare his boys to succeed. So don't marry or get involved with a dark-skinned person because that's going to keep you back. I did not accept that until maybe 10 years ago, okay, because my mother is mocha chocolate. Hey, mama. Mocha chocolate, okay? And because of how, now I was like maybe 3 shades lighter when I was born, okay? And my grandfather told my daddy, that ain't your child because ain't nothing that light come out of nothing that dark. And then 22 days later, my aunt, his daughter, who was the same shade of mocha as my mama, had a white baby, okay, who they praised. My cousin could do no wrong. He was lighter than you, child. Okay, with the cat eyes, the good hair, you know. And again, are we producing this? Are we producing this? Because my cousin, he's no longer here. He died 3 years ago. But spoiled rotten. That boy got away with all kinds of hell in all dimensions of it. Okay, but that there was because of the skin tone. And again, are we producing the men that we hate? Because he too became light-skinned adjacent and carrying on, and now all of his children, light as he is, and this, that, and the other, it stayed within that. He never branched out that I knew of, but we didn't know each other as adults. But that there was that. So in the essence of, are we producing this? How is it and why is it? I'm talking to the men folk because, see, this is us. Again, we in the barbershops, You know, we in our little group, men groups and carrying on our friend groups, we hang out with one another. And we know how we talk when we have a locker room conversation. You know, we know what we talk about. We know how we encourage each other. We know what we do. But the question becomes, why do we do it? And yet still, when we come out in the public, we say we can't stand that. We can't stand this. And now, this is going to lead me into toxic masculinity, how to define that. Personally, I do not believe in the term. I don't. Because I don't ever think that, especially black men, I don't believe that black men are ever toxic in their masculinity. I believe they could be overbearing, because they're trying to prove something, trying to be this man. Right. Why? Because we got fathers who sit up there, rugged and rough and tough and want to chip off the old block, and you bet not be. We have all of that coming into play, okay? So we get that. You don't want the girls to see you a certain way, so we end up going through all of this, what I call uber masculinity, to overcompensate for something. Yeah. And that's what we end up dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
I would say this.
Okay, hold on. Let me.
Yeah. Thank you. You spoke on post-traumatic slave syndrome, and that, I think, needs to be uncovered just a little bit more. The things that we use, Dr. DeRoy talks in her book, and she talks about post-traumatic slave syndrome, is there are things that happened to us in slavery that we had to deal with, but we had to do what we did to survive. Mm-hmm. And so we're no longer in slavery, but it's in our mind, it's been as shackled in us that we treat our kids, we treat ourselves personally, treat the ones we love based on the doctrine of things that were handed down to us since slavery. We don't need to take an ironing cord and beat our kids anymore, but we needed to do that during slavery because it kept us. I remember being chastised for looking in a white man's eyes when I was about 10, 11 years old. I was born down during the Jim Crow age. I'm 75 years old, so I was born during that time. I look at your eyes now because I'm not in slavery. I feel better about myself, and I feel entitled. But I think that there are things that we need to get rid of that was given to us from slavery that we don't need anymore. And so I think that one of the problems is talking about your dad and everybody's giving things down. Well, we don't have that generation anymore. We have children having children. No one has indoctrinated their kids or instilled in their kids that old-fashioned values that you and I can walk on the street, and regardless of the color of your skin, light or dark, what's going on, brother? Right, but that's the generation. There's a new generation. And I think that we first have to take that generation, like we take kids, knee-high, they call them, they wear the pants down there, we take them, and we take them out. They're wannabes. And so we have the people, the gangsters looking for these kids. The organization we work with, we grab these kids as a church while they are young, and we pay to take them to the mountains for the weekend. And to see those kids when they get there, that they lose that animosity because you're in nature and there are things that we do with them, and then we bring the parents back so they graduate. But there are things that we do on that weekend to get them from point A to point B. Because once they get back to their communities, they have to be a certain way if they want to survive. And so we try to teach them, you wear two hats, but how do you walk away from some stuff in a community where you have to be like that and you scared doo-doo, but you got to be a certain way. And so the plight of the black male is that we wear so many different hats because we have to still survive. Yeah. There's still so much. My parents always told me, find out what the rules are. Mm-hmm. Once you learn what the rules are, there may be some extraordinary way of circumventing some rules, but you got to find out the rules. Here in America, we have not learned the rules. We are not teaching our children the rules. And that's where we have to start because they are dividing us and conquering us. That's how people get elected. Going in the ghettos and inner cities and giving people hats and giving them things, and they don't even know what's going on. All I know is that you gave me something, and I'm going to vote for you. But we got to reach those people. Why did the white people come down there? Why didn't we go down there and educate them? I'm saying that it starts here. It starts educating them, letting them know that there's two things in this world, in America. When you talk about the definition of culture, you have to know that there are two definitions of culture. One definition is that culture is the complete things that you do in your life. And that's what we operate from. But you have to understand there's another culture, and it's called the official culture. And that is the culture that the United States operates under. And in that culture, my friends, you don't have the same rights and privileges as everybody else. There are laws and there's ways that people use. And so you have to learn how to operate under the guise of the real culture that's going on. You have to understand that everything that's made is against us. And so I think we have to start out by educating our men about what exists and how we can circumvent it. It's not so much us, it's the system that pits us together. And so we have to start by saying this is the way the system looks. And until we do that, if you don't know what the rules are, you're just running and bumping into each other. We have to educate our youth and ourselves.
Hey, I want to add on what he said.
Go ahead.
I want to add, when you think about, we talk about culture, and we look at black men. We have the black community has we have a subculture, like you were saying. You're right. We're the only ones who really walk around and have to wear 17 hats. Black men are the only ones who have to walk around, and we always talk about code switch. I got to speak a certain way. I got to look a certain way. When I walk in a room, I'm a big guy, so when I go in these people's houses, I got to make myself small. I have to make them feel like I'm not going to be threatening to them, So I have to always be cognizant of that, while the rest of the communities can just be themselves. And then these same people will tell you, and that's a form of oppression in itself. These same people who aren't oppressed will tell you, well, man, why are you doing that? Well, why can't you just be this? Why you can't be that? Because I understand what a judgment to you may be just something offsetting you could roll off your back. A judgment of me can mean the death of me. Somebody can call right now. I could be in the room, white woman walks in the room, she can start crying. They'll automatically assume it's me. Well, what did you do to her? What are you talking about? I didn't do anything. I have to defend myself because of all of the negative stereotypes and everything that's out here about me. They don't care about who I really am. They just want to pin something on me. And if she lies, her lies will beat my truth 9 times out of 10. So it's part of that hat that we have to, that in a sense he's saying that we have to wear, that a lot of our young folks don't even know about. A lot of them now, where in our generation and generation, I think we were like that last generation. We all came from the baby boomers of the people of the civil rights movement. Their kids and grandkids don't see that now. They don't see that, there was this line that we didn't cross. They habitually cross that line. And they don't care because they say, well, man, I don't see all that race and stuff y'all see. But they don't understand the system. It's a system. It's systematic.
Exactly. I'm going to go here before because we're going to take a break in just a few moments so that we can get y'all a little something to eat. But I want to hit this topic because we done hit all around it and things, and I want to go to understanding why is it that we facilitate a culture that does not accept our gay brothers and sisters.
I think I'm gonna add to that. Well, I'm gonna let you finish. I'm gonna add to it.
And I'm asking that because everything about society nowadays, let me come around front because I feel like walking. everything is facilitating. We got, oh my God, we got black men in dresses in Hollywood. They're trying to demasculinize, they emasculate the black man and put him in a dress. We look at the effeminate gay man, why he got to be so much of a, why he trying to be a woman, why he, okay? But yet, our more straight acting, straight appearing, normal brothers honey, who just happen to be openly gay, y'all get an attitude, straight folks, if they didn't come out and tell you that they were gay. But did you just say you didn't want to be bothered? You just said that your business should be your business. I don't want to know about you or whatever. Keep that over there. So I kept it over here, minding my own business. But then you find out now I'm wrong still. At the same time of me being wrong, I'm still considered less of a man because of what I do behind closed doors, or because I'm out loud and proud and carrying on, so I don't care. But I'm 55 soon to be, so I've earned that of how I fought to get here. But what is it about that?
Okay, Ray.
There we go. Come on. I need new voices. Come on, baby.
Appreciate this conversation. I think what the issue with that is, if it wasn't pushed down and forced through so many sources of media, it wouldn't be so much of an issue.
Exactly.
You can't even cut on the TV now without seeing it. So it's like it's being forced and it's being promoted. And we know that there is an attack on strong black heterosexual relationships. There was a study done in Kenya on how they said that to control the people, we need to effeminize the men. So it's something about the way that they know you can't control a nation without controlling the masculinity of men. So there's actually studies done in other countries on how we can control black men and black culture, and it's through promoting homosexuality. Now, with that being said, we need to have honest conversations about why there is so much homosexuality in our community. But we shouldn't push against our brothers in a negative way, but we should still have conversations and say, okay, just because there's a lot of it doesn't mean that it's normal or natural. A lot of it is caused because of things that were done in our community that weren't spoken on, whether it's been, people don't want to make the connection with abuse and homosexuality. That's played a part in it. A lot of people, even today, you have young homosexual men, they weren't molested or anything like that, but they might not have been raised in a home with men. So they might have effeminate ways, you know? But that doesn't, we shouldn't look at that as, you know, coming down on them in a negative way, but we should have honest conversations of, okay, how do we get to that point? But we should still, instead of pushing them away, we should have the mindset of, okay, we're all family. You're still black. You're still a brother. So I think we should need to just have real conversations about how do we get to this point, and is it necessarily beneficial if we have a large number of it without pushing back in a negative way individually and saying, you are this. No, you're family. But how do we get here as a community where so much of it?
You know,
Okay. I'm gonna touch on that, and you spoke very eloquently about this subject. But let's take it back to what your first reiteration of it was. There's a thing historically in slavery that used to be called buck busting.
there you go.
Okay, and this is where it started, where they demasculated the black man in front of their wives, showing to break them down so they'll be the weaker vessel within the family. they had to show dominance by breaking these men by really, just doing homosexual activities. So right there, again, that goes back to Unc over here with the PTSD, post-traumatic slave disorder. That mentality traveled into our communities, into our homes as we developed as a people. And it became the sneaky family person or the person that's got it really bad as, again, a mental health issue, which this is this month for this. That mental health issue trickles down into them messing with their little nephew or messing with a younger male in there. Now what you're doing, you're not breaking the cycle, you're not breaking the chain of this mentality, you're developing it. You're sowing a seed into devilment. You understand what I'm saying? You're developing a mental cycle that wasn't even there. Like you said, sometimes it's not learned behavior. Sometimes somebody is slided into the community, and then 2 generations will go by, they won't be there, but then it pops up again because DNA is a scary thing.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna kind of add what Ray was saying, and me and Meech have these conversations all the time. I look at it like, you're gonna have, and I'm not saying this from the beginning because I don't know where it starts, whatever. But we can look at our community and say it's always been in our community in a sense. I think now that it's become more acceptable, it seems like it may be more. But I think it's about the same. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think it's about the same. However, just like you said, Brother Ray, I believe that we have to have the conversation. So I'm gonna give you an example, Misha, if you don't mind me. I'm gonna talk about conversation. I know you don't.
You know I'm hot
I know you
right
don't
now,
care,
right?
but
So yeah, I'm letting y'all talk.
Meech and I have these conversations, and we talk about this and how much we have in common versus how much we don't. So Meech and I were talking one day, and we happened to be talking about, I think they had a march, the LGBTQ had a march. And I'm talking to Meech about it, and I'm saying, well, what happened? And Meech said, Mike, they will come pick us up. We will go march for them. And when they get money, we don't even see them no more.
The
and I
money
said, are
don't
you
trickle
serious?
down, no.
And he says, no, I'm serious. He says, they don't care about our issues. And I said, well, it sounds like the same thing that happened to black folks in general. He said, it is.
Because I'm still black.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
But I mean,
'Cause I'm still black.
And the thing is, if I'm not part of the community, I would never know that. I would never know that. But me and him having these conversations, I'm learning. And I look at it and say, this is my brother. Like I tell everybody, like Meech is my brother. The one I ain't asked for, but we always talk.
Man,
But the reason I say that is because when we talk and I can relate to him, it's not about his sexuality. It's about him and his character. That ain't my business what he do. And he has to answer to whatever makes him.
Put that on there too, and vice versa. Let's go there.
Exactly.
Because between you and your wife, that's private.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? That's
Exactly.
their business.
So I base everything based on his character and our brothers and sisters' characters. And I think what happens in our community, we do have a lot of young folks who are part of the community. But if they don't feel accepted, and they're not going to start telling us certain things, and they're going to be starting to be left out of a lot of things because they feel like, oh, don't nobody care about me. I learned a long time ago, before I even met Meech, that they have a lot of homeless young gay men who are victimized repeatedly because nobody listens to them. Those still our brothers. Those young men, whether we agree with their lifestyle or not, are still our brothers and still should be protected by us. And they feel like they're not because nobody cares because who they sleep with. And we have to get past that. All of us have to get past that. Because at the end of the day, like you said, we're still black. People are still gonna look at us the same way, whether they think you're gay or not. They're gonna say, well, we're gonna treat you this way or whatever. So, that's one thing that we are going to have these conversations, but we have to make it palatable, and we have to make people feel comfortable on both sides to have these conversations. Now, Meech is a great example of somebody, he don't care. But he's a great person to have because he understands what both of these things mean. Right? And understanding the other side as well. So we're going to have some pushback, and it's okay, but there's something we have to do because we have to bring the community together. We have to make these people feel that they can have the same conversation and not be judged.
Let me come in here, baby. I'm going to say this, and we're going to go to break. Dr. Chu, I knew you were trying to get in, but we're going to go for break right after this. let me say this. And I know I'm a little bit outnumbered because I'm assuming that most people in here are heterosexual. Okay, but the problem that we have about being honest with this conversation is that we got two different dynamics going on. Okay, the first dynamic is trying to understand how black we are. The second dynamic becomes to what we don't like about it. Okay, the third dynamic is what religion is playing into it, because now we got religious teachings. Okay, and with all those three things, you know, it becomes this whole idea of there's a gang up now, because now my life ain't my life. I had what's his name? Chad, what's his name? The king of Pan-Africanism.
Dr. Umar Johnson.
Dr. Umar Johnson, thank you. I interviewed him on my show, and he and I got to a point where he did not believe I was going to agree with a lot of what he said. I said, what you have to understand is I'm still a man, and I am comfortable with being a man. That's why I was telling all my trans children of trans experience, that's a whole separate issue that requires a little bit more time, because everybody ain't there yet, so we're going to get into that later. Okay. No, y'all not ready for that yet, and that's heavy, okay? But part of that is a lot of why this conversation is needed, because it goes on deaf ears. Okay, for you to tell me, oh, I'm a product of book breaking, and that ain't got. Oh,
you know what? I'm thinking. I think it falls too. I get what he was saying. I think what happens is the mentality that comes down.
Yeah. And that's
so
what
it's a byproduct, but it's not. I think the thing of it is that you may have one side of it,
right?
But as a heterosexual man, we're looking at it saying, this is what they're exactly.
It's the history.
Exactly.
And so that's where it is.
Yeah.
That's where it is. And so when we get those particular things of how this come to be and how we as black folks are accepting it, because that there is how we want to accept it and say this is where it started and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm going to come back and say, oh, well, we got countries in Africa, honey, that we done found that this is actually on the mother continent. And it becomes now we're not listening because we're fighting trying to be right.
See,
okay.
Meech, we've had a conversation about this.
Yeah.
We've had a real hard conversation about this.
Break. We're gonna go. Wait.
Let's go to break.
So wait. Meech was supposed to be break for us. He started going off again.
I'm sorry.
So look, we gonna.
Because I'm sitting here looking at a division, and when I worked, and they were all women, and I was the man in charge. I don't know what it feels like to be a woman. And my decisions and my interactions, I tell them it may be sexist because I was taught to be sexist as a man.
Right.
And so when it comes to brothers and being gay or not, back home we have conferences. And we have those who are gay to tell us, this is how I feel when I'm approached by other black men or women. This is what it seems like to me, because I can sit here and I can pontificate all day. But if I ain't gay, I need to listen to whoever in this room is gay to tell me the experience and do not push up against it.
Exactly.
Because when I go home and tell my old lady, hey, they were racist at me today, and I don't want to hear, oh, you must have been just, just a little bit insensitive. I don't want to hear that. And so I'm just saying, if we're talking about gayness and the inductions into black, then we need to hear from those people that represent and are gay. Otherwise, we need to just, from our perspective, we have nothing to say. I'm not a woman. I can't tell her what it's like. I don't care how many years of education I have. I don't care where I've been. Unless I am a woman, I need to sit my behind down. And so what I'm saying, being real, if there's issues around gayness, then it's not for me to make it, it's for me to listen and say, oh, because I'm the perpetrator. Since I'm not gay, I could be doing things that are insensitive. And so we need to open up the men that are not gay to listen, to see what it feels like, the hurt and pain that we cause not knowing because they split us. Ain't nothing wrong with being gay, ain't nothing wrong with being straight.
Well, Uncle, I
What's
didn't-
wrong with it is when we don't interact and be
Yeah,
real with each
that's
other.
what
I'm
I'm
done.
I'm gonna say this. Yeah. I'm about to
Let's go to
say
break.
the good thing is we have started this conversation, and that's one thing. So now it is time for the vittles. So we're gonna take about an hour break for everybody. Sit around and talk. I mean, we can go out here and get something to eat.
Okay.